Am I too idealistic to the real world? Such a nonsense. I want authentic people to win without losing romanticism in life. There's one saying that Hermann Hesse said that I love. An enlightened man had but one duty: to seek the way himself, to reach inner certainty, to grope his way forward. I can say now that the ego towards the true self is not something to be found, but to be drawn according to one's nature. Before realizing that, I think I was very naive, like a plant in the greenhouse. I often call egg yolk, which is a solid nucleus, the ego at the center. And hatching is my formula of successful life. What I mean by hatching is keep working on yourself as a creator to finally become your own founder. In terms of the desire to create things, creators and founders have a lot in common. And I believe everyone, deep down, has one unique authenticity, trigger point to be hatching. Looking back, authenticity, the act of being real, sincere and original, became my biggest interest at the age of 22. I was so into it and sometimes got sick while trying to distinguish appearance from reality to seek out authenticity. 진짜, 진심, 본래성. I was obsessed with living the life in accord with the promptings which came from my true self. This is crack 1. Art, particularly conceptual art, was the catalyst for me to get in touch with my deep inner feelings. I reflected on authenticity by contemplating the symbols, signs, and messages conveyed by the artworks. This is because there are many controversies to consider, such as whether or not this work can be regarded as real art. I became obsessed with myself during the stage of acquiring artistic uniqueness, where I naturally learned various ways of expressing my inner feelings by going back and forth between the artist's message and work and the brand's message and product. I neglected essential life elements such as discipline, organization, order, rules, clothing, food, and shelter. During hatching, the bird shakes the egg string and breaks the shell. For me, it was the art that strongly stimulated the existence of my inner ego, which I didn't even realize was there in the first place. To find your true self, you must get in touch with your deep inner feelings. You do that by listening to your raw feelings. How I experience art in London and how the British creative industry works strongly touched my feelings. I have learned a lot from business perspective. I studied business, so it was natural for me to compare it to business. The next stage requires a more powerful bake, which leads to the crack to acquiring self-objectification and business visibility. I start to hear the economy, money, efficiency, other people's comments, and so-called reality that I had neglected in the egg. I saw the importance of discipline, tidying up, food, and shelter, which I had taken for granted. Because, if you live with your mom does that to you, so you take for granted.
반숙. 그럼 8분만 해야겠다.
So you take those essential life elements for granted. I also thought about differences and similarities between the two fields, arts and business. Initially, I thought those two fields were opposite, as one side is pure and the other commercial, but in the end, it was an act of creating and persuading. The philosophy of the artist who created the work is like the vision of the entrepreneur who started the brand. They first create the idea they want to bring to the world, persuade viewers and consumers by contributing to the community in that way. At the individual level, it was a process of narrowing the gap between the real me and me that people see. To keep pushing forward these two stages, it is helpful to look into several graphs that often overlap with an egg. Describes the penetration of a product into the market. Still, it also has many implications for individuals' lives. Hatching requires great endurance to break through cracks from the beginning of market entry until popularization spreads to the market. Graph is in a similar context. What is more important than birth is to sustain life and popularize it. I want us to all hatch after all, with their own true self and authenticity. This journey has a particular order from the stage of acquiring sincerity, artistic uniqueness, inner certainty, where you need to be full of yourself, to the stage of acquiring self-objectification and business visibility. It's not only about self-actualization, but also about living a fulfilling life